Hey guys, Captain here. So last weekend I went to Brickworld Chicago, which was really exciting. That was actually my first LEGO convention, and I took a whole bunch of videos there for you guys. This is certainly not everything that was there. Most of the stuff is stuff that I thought was interesting, or a few things that I thought you guys might find interesting, but there were certainly plenty of other things out there. There were also lots of vendors that I didn't really take any video of. Brick 101 was there. If you guys are fans of his YouTube channel, I met him. So that was pretty exciting. He was with David Pagano, and they were promoting their Lego animation book. But anyways, I guess let's hop in, and I'll show you some of the cool stuff that was at Brickworld. Microscale is my favorite style, so the first thing that caught my eye is St. Peter's Basilica, which is in Russia. And this is a really neat build. I'm not sure if I zoom into it in this clip, but it's a lot of really cool techniques in there. And then some other cool stuff on this table as well, but very clever stuff there, very colorful. It was super awesome. And the next thing, in this clip I kind of captured a few things. We got this pirate ship. I do love pirates, of course, but next to it was a pretty sweet baseball stadium in Microscale. I thought that was really nicely done. Wrigley Field, in fact, and also some other Microscale buildings, but there were some larger dioramas as well. This, I think, was part of Micropolis over here. Micropolis is, I believe, a collaborative project between a couple builders, and it's modularly done. You might see in some of these clips there are some Technic bricks with the holes in them on the sides, and that's just so I can take it apart easily and put it back together, and they could rearrange it if they really wanted. So lots of really cool stuff there, and they kind of added some fun details as well. In addition to just microscale buildings, they had a desert area with a sarlacc pit and an ocean area and all that kind of cool stuff. Here's another view of it from the side, kind of some the suburban areas, and also like Asian style castle. I don't know, I think this is kind of more Chinese style, but nonetheless I thought that was pretty cool. And then they had a pretty nice ocean area with a lighthouse and with some other features. Really nice detailed microscale cruise liner. The next thing is a microscale, not quite Catan board, although it certainly reminded me of that. A bunch of octagonal plates held together, a castle that kind of looked like Hogwarts, and some miscellaneous fantasy stuff going on. There's some pirate ships, but some sea monsters as well. And I thought this was a pretty fun display. There's some pretty cool tree techniques at work there too. I've highlighted a few microscale tree techniques in the past, but I learned one or two new ones here today. And as you can see, some of the ones I highlighted were there too. There's also this microscale castle, which I thought was pretty awesome. I really liked the kind of the nice details with the turrets. Even though it's really not that many different pieces, it turned out really, really nicely, I thought. If I remember correctly, this clip is from Metropolis, which is another microscale city, kind of similar to Micropolis, very similar scale, and I think it's built in the same kind of modular way. And then there was someone who actually had brought a microscale version of downtown Chicago, stretching from a little north of the river and a little east of the river to basically down to Museum Campus, so basically capturing the entire loop and South Loop. And so all the buildings were there in scale together. I had a lot of fun looking at that because I've been to downtown Chicago plenty of times. I had a good time trying to look for some buildings that I'd either been in or worked in or stuff like that. Then there was a display where some people had built a lot of famous buildings in microscale, usually a little larger than some of the other microscale stuff, but what was cool is, Brickworld was called Brickworld Chicago, even though it was held in a suburb of Chicago. But they had a lot of Chicago buildings and other famous buildings from around the world, like the Burj Khalifa and a few buildings from New York. But it was super cool to see a lot of Chicago buildings. In fact, ones that I even recognize. Here are more clips of some of those downtown Chicago buildings. A lot of very cool ones. Like there was the Marina Towers, a bunch of buildings on Wacker. Obviously, the very recognizable ones like the John Hancock Building and the Willis Tower. There was the Prudential Plaza, which I got pretty excited about. And right next to it were other Michigan Avenue buildings like the Aon Center too. Like I said, there were also some other buildings not from Chicago, like the Empire State Building and some of the Freedom Towers and World Trade Center type buildings. There's also someone else who built a minifigure scale Prudential Plaza, which again I got pretty excited about. And so I kind of, here you can see me zooming all the way up. It was lit up and everything. Pretty tall build. With minifigures in the cafe and all that. It was actually part of a larger city type diorama that might have had a train going around it. And I guess that kind of leads me in a lot of other minifigure scale builds. This was one of the first ones I noticed, and it was a pretty cool, very bustling sort of cityscape. Had some kind of, it had a bit of an interesting, maybe like steampunk style even. That was pretty cool. There were a bunch of people who either made train-related builds or just had like a cityscape build with trains around them. And so there was one guy who had kind of like a Japanese train and some Japanese buildings, and then another train that I don't know enough about trains to say about, but that was pretty neat. And then some other builds. Here's another kind of Asian style one. There's some pirate ships in that one too. There was actually more Asian style architecture than I expected, and in fact there was this really large palace build, which was pretty cool. Try and get a nice swing around view of it. As you can see, there's some stuff in the background that I don't even highlight in this video. It was simply too much for me to capture all of it, but it's kind of as encouragement for you guys to come out to a convention sometimes too, because it's a great experience. I saw lots of really cool stuff. Lots of really enjoyable builds. Here I've kind of lumped a lot of the, like I said, like Asian style architecture together. And then here is a recreation of, I think, what is Wrigley Field. We'll see in a moment if there's a Cubs sign or not. But nevertheless, a baseball field, stands packed with minifigures. And this is part of one of those train dioramas. A bunch of Wild West builds around, especially with some of these trains. This was a pretty large recreation of some kind of buildings, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I kind of wish I had captured more of the signs to go along with these, because I only remember what some of these things are. I recognize some of them. We've got a bit of like a Mexico City type diorama. I'm not actually sure if any of those buildings are real or not, if that temple's real or not. And Batman playing the guitar, kind of looking like a rock star. I saw this really nice city port. Of course, I've liked pirates for a long time and kind of wanted to do a pirates build at different points in times, but never really got around to it. So I kind of captured some clips to get inspiration. Maybe someday something would come to me. But there were quite a few pirate ships, not just in this diorama, but in others. A few kind of been highlighted because they've been mixed in with other clips. But these in particular, I think, had maybe the nicest detail there. I think all of them might have been some kind of recreations of a real ship. And then, of course, a lot of these builds have some fun stuff in there, like Jack Sparrow riding on a sea turtle. And as we zoom out, we can see there's a village and a fort, whole setup. I always thought it would be cool to build something like this, but since I don't have the space or pieces, that's why you can go to a convention to see it. There's also a lot of gaming-related stuff, which I'm sure some people who are fans of this channel will enjoy. I happen to know that Nick Brick was an Illinois builder, so him and part of the LEGO user group he was part of came by and brought a lot of things. He's pretty well known on Flickr for building weapons from Overwatch and other video games like Halo. And there's some other cool gaming stuff too, like that Bioshock, some Overwatch characters. Sure enough, there were some Pokemon things that we'll get to, but a decent amount of gaming stuff, which again, I figured fans of this channel might enjoy. There were a handful of mosaics that I didn't really highlight all of. Some of them were pretty good, some of them were not as good, and I didn't feel too compelled to take pictures of them, but nevertheless pretty cool. This is Lumbridge Castle from RuneScape, if any of you have played, and frankly a little bit of the river as well. Elvarg, if you remember doing the Dragon Slayer quest, and the surrounding area. Here are some of those brick figure type characters. I don't remember exactly what LEGO calls them, but people have built some in the style. Then Pokemon ones and some Disney ones. And here are some basically Pokemon sprites blown up. Not quite as mosaics, but kind of the same idea. And someone, in fact, as part of the diorama, built Bob-omb Battlefield from Super Mario 64, complete with a lot of details and also some superheroes riding around on it. But nevertheless, all the original details were there, which was pretty neat to see. Someone had recreated a lot of Microscale gaming consoles. I built a Super Nintendo long ago, so it's kind of cool to see how theirs compares in detail to mine. And they had built a lot of others, like Ataris and the original Nintendo and that kind of stuff. There were a couple of action figures that people had built. One of them was a Lucario and a Ash Greninja, which I thought I'd highlight, because people on this channel are fans of Pokemon. And then this weird looking Pikachu sprite. I don't really know what to say about it, but it cracks me up, so I threw it in there. There's also a really large-scale companion cube, which I thought it was kind of neat how they managed to get the heart built. Got some perfect curves on that with some of the round bricks, and so that was pretty neat. And then, because it was right next to there, here's a scene from The Lion King. Like I said, there were a few other action figures, usually superhero stuff. Some of them were kind of Bionicle stuff too. But so here's Batman, Catwoman, Mr. Penguin. And then here are some Bionicle figures, which I don't think are really based off anything. A lot of these things are often influenced by Gundam to some extent. I mean, a lot of the mechs that I've built are influenced by that. But it was pretty cool to see some of these figures. Especially since some of them were very, very large, in fact. And then some of them were kind of in like a Bionicle figure scale. There are some more superheroes. And a couple Pokemon tossed in there too. This guy had taken a lot of those large orc or whatever they are, troll figures, maybe it was the Hulk, and had painted them as different figures. I didn't really get more clips, but I kind of wish I had because there's some really cool ones. Here, the last section is just a lot of miscellaneous stuff that I saw and I thought was pretty cool. Here are some guinea pigs. And again, the rest of the video doesn't follow too much of a theme. A lot of the stuff in here is either vehicles or animals or a couple scenes thrown in here and there. There are actually several Star Wars builds that kind of cropped up near the end, but I'll sort of let the clips speak for themselves. Sorry that some of them were not the stablest in camera work. Someday I hope to maybe get a nicer camera. Yeah, as I mentioned, there were some Star Wars builds in there, so there's a pretty nice lightsaber hilt down there. And I zoomed in on this mech because, of course, I like really microscale mechs. I saw a couple others that piqued my interest a little bit, and also this princess had some pretty cool piecework on really every feature of her. I definitely have that cape somewhere because it was used as wings in some dragon set long ago. Next is tennis match. We've got the final trench run from Star Wars: A New Hope, which is pretty cool. They recreated the whole trench and the TIE fighters. The X-Wing didn't really look to me like it was from one of the sets, so I think they might have built it themselves. There were also a couple of really enormous dioramas, like for example this Game of Thrones one. They had basically taken a huge cardboard, cut out of the whole map, and placed all the fortresses and castles on it. So that was really cool, even though I don't watch or haven't read Game of Thrones. There's some really large other dioramas as well. Here's the Star Wars one, the final battle from Rogue One. And I think there might have been a few World War II ones that I didn't actually get clips of. I don't think this is based off anything, but it's like a giant ice fortress and whole armies lined up here. It's pretty neat. Here are more of those brickheads kind of figures for basically every character that's ever been in Star Wars. Even ones that have had really minor appearances got a figurine, and I think some of these characters might have just been in Clone Wars or other spin-off series like Rebels. But a lot of very recognizable characters. That was super neat. I think they did a great job on them, and it was real fun to see. I think my personal favorite was actually Jabba the Hutt. I like the way they built his tail. Although all of them were really nice. This Star Wars diorama wasn't super exciting in and of itself because I think that the sail barge might have just been the one from a set, but the moving Sarlacc pit was pretty cool, and there's some other nice details built in there. I'm sure some of my viewers probably like Adventure Time, so is this whole really cool diorama set up with a bunch of Adventure Time characters built and been as a brickhead and in different scales and all that. Then there were some Microscale Star Wars, which I thought had some really nice details in them. And there was another giant diorama. It was a great ball contraption, which had lots and lots of modules. I didn't really have the time to kind of follow it around and go in a big circle, but there are plenty of other videos out there if you're interested just in the ball contraption itself. But if you ever wanted to see one in real life, then I guess a convention is the place to go. I feel like I'd recognize some of those modules, but anyway, then I saw a power strip and a phone charger that I actually thought was real for a second until I looked carefully at it, so that was a pretty fun little build. There was this airship with some dragons and some lights going on. over the clouds. There was one guy who had a lot of really lit up plants made out of some super interesting pieces. I think the lighting got sort of blurred when I was recording this, but again, it was super cool how some of these plants were built because it was techniques that I'd certainly never seen before. And then here's a large, very, very textured castle. And I think it's supposed to be from Robin Hood. I don't know if I captured it, but you can just barely see it. There's actually Robin Hood swinging along a zip line. And I think somewhere this is labeled as Nottingham. So that was a pretty neat build. This isn't one mosaic I did decide to highlight. This is probably the best one I saw because it actually was built not quite just in 2 dimensions. There was actually some texturing with translucent plates in 3 dimensions. Although it doesn't maybe look spectacular on camera, I can assure you that it was spectacular in person. I think it was the best mosaic I've seen out of Legos. That was very, very well done. And then wrapping up here are some miscellaneous builds. Kind of some Star Wars or other characters from Silly Things, this and that. There's Lemon Grab from Adventure Time. And then the last clip I have for you guys is one of the other biggest things there, which was the USS Missouri, which is a build I'd heard about but never gotten to see. It's a full-scale recreation of a World War II battleship and outfitted with figures and everything. I think it's something like 100,000 bricks. And then the last thing is I did treat myself to something from one of the vendors. I've been trying to collect all the architecture sets, and I saw that one of them had Via Savoy for a reasonable price, so I picked that up for myself. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please rate, comment, subscribe, send this to your friends, check out my other ones, and I will see you guys next time.